Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for joining our Sage Intacct, being a data-driven nonprofit using Sage Intacct. We're going to give it a high-level overview. We also have joining us, we have Dave Rumer, Vice President of Market Development for Sage Intacct, and we have Edward Mortimer, who's going to be the solution consultant on this presentation for us. So I'm sure that for housekeeping purposes, everybody is on mute. But any questions as you go through this, just put them in the chat box, and then we will get to questions at the end. So at this point in time, I'm going to pass it off to Dave, who's going to go through a short PowerPoint for Intacct.
Thank you very much, Sean. Appreciate it. As Sean mentioned, my name is Dave Rumer. I'm Vice President of Market Development based in Toronto. And have purview over Canada. I'm fortunate to be joined by Ed Mortimer. Ed is the head of Canadian Solution Engineering for Sage Intacct, also focused in on the Canadian market. Ed will be doing the product demonstration coming up. So we're just going to spend a little bit of time going through nonprofits and Sage Intacct, how we're working with nonprofits and helping them solve some of their challenges and gaining visibility into whole sorts of financial management information, which impacts decision making in a very positive way. And we'll go through the Sage Intacct nonprofit solution and product demonstration, and then Sean will follow that up with next steps and a special offer that he's put together. At Sage Intacct, we believe in nonprofit mission success. About 5 years ago, we started up the Sage Foundation in a way of giving back and having a pure engagement with the various communities. This is a worldwide foundation, and part of what we do is we give 2% of our free cash. We donate it to nonprofits to help them in their cause and their mission. We also give 2% of each of our employees' time so they can do volunteering either with some of our nonprofit customers or in areas that they like to do it. In Canada, Sage has approximately 300 employees, so that's about 1,500 volunteer days that we provide in the Canadian market. So nonprofit and giving is really one of our core values and part of what we'll be talking about today and how we're solving some challenges. So we care about our customers' mission as well. We've worked with thousands of nonprofit organizations, both big and small, to help them free up time to be more strategic and make more impactful decisions. As you can see on the slide, 32% of our Sage Intacct customers are in fact nonprofits of all different types, and I will spend a little time not going through each of these organizations, but happy, at any point in time in the future to kind of walk through and talk specifically about how our customers in the nonprofit sector are leveraging Sage Intacct. So we work with international and NGOs. Sage Intacct also works with faith-based organizations, philanthropic organizations, diocese and Catholic charities, healthcare organizations, human services organizations, also trust Sage Intacct, educational organizations, as well as art and culture organizations, membership organizations. In the last slide of this type, we also work with environmental organizations. So we're moving from the age of information to the age of answers. Over the next 50 minutes or so, we will be discussing and demonstrating how your Sage nonprofit organization can leverage Sage Intacct to realize the tremendous power of the age of answers and become a data-driven financial group. So the nonprofit world has changed. I don't need to kind of educate the people online here. You guys live it. We also live it through vicariously working with our customers across Canada. But there is an increased need and demand for nonprofits and the services, the great services that your organizations are providing in different areas. There's also a lot of intense competition, not only for resources, people to work, as well as to volunteer, but also for funding, changing compliance requirements. And this has led to a greater focus on data, becoming a data-driven financial group, not only to merely look back historically, but also to have insight to look forward. Many of the challenges of nonprofit organizations that we see is they're working with an older version of an accounting system. They're using things like Excel, and their data transparency and their ability to share information with all levels of the organization are hampered. Some of the things that we're hearing, lack of real-time visibility into key nonprofit metrics, manual time-consuming reporting, and you can't slice and dice data, lack of integration or slide data, as this slide says, and complex and slow error-prone manual work in spreadsheets, really relying on Excel to do what a solution like Sage Intacct can do from an automation standpoint. So accelerating your mission with Sage Intacct, as you've seen, we've got thousands of customers within the nonprofit organizations, and the key areas that they feed back to us that they really benefit from is the ability to automate revenue recognition for compliance, allocate spend towards mission achievement, demonstrate transparency with disclosures, dashboards, and achieve real-time visibility with dashboards and reporting. This is, in fact, one of the dashboards that I'm showing up on the screen here, and I'll give you the chance to just take a look at this dashboard. And what you'll see is it's purpose-built for the nonprofit area. You get real-time reporting and dashboards to help identify trends and issues in real time for better decision-making. And you have the ability to go beyond GAAP reporting with multi-dimensional analysis. And these are two of the things that Ed will be showing on the product demonstration coming up. A little bit more from third-party organizations and our customers. This provides you a view of Gartner's 2019 Critical Capabilities Report. And this slide shows with Sage Intacct being at the top. And in fact, if you go into the next, for those of you who may not know G2 is the leader in business software and services review. It's a peer-to-peer review site, and it's based off of Sage has been recognized since 2015, the last several years, as a leader in customer satisfaction. And if you go into the G2 site and type in nonprofit accounting software, you'll find that Sage Intacct is also at the top of that list as well. So when you combine the core capabilities of the Sage Intacct accounting and financial management solution with what our customers are telling us about from a satisfaction level, and this is not only the product itself, but also includes all of the programs that Sage Intacct provides around customers for life and satisfaction guarantee, as well as working closely with cherished partners like IWI Consulting Group. So Sage Intacct, right partner, the right product, the right partner for your nonprofit. In here, and just as I'm passing this over to Ed, we at Sage Intacct, given our history with nonprofits, we understand the challenges and pain points that you're going through. to really demonstrate sustained impact to your donors and throughout the community. And we're helping you guys navigate the challenges that we've talked about in dealing with diverse stakeholders, multiple funding streams, distributed work teams, expanding programs and initiatives, multiple systems and locations, and the pressure for faster reporting timeframes and the ability to close your books in a timely fashion. So with that, I'd like to pass it over to Mr. Ed Mortimer.
Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate that. I'm just going to take the baton over to myself, and as I am transitioning over to my screen, I'm just going to take the quick opportunity to set out a quick poll to our audience and just to get an understanding of what current financial platform you are using today. So I'll just go ahead and open that poll. It will be open very quickly. With that, we will transition over to our solution. So it looks like the majority of people are currently completing the poll. We have a number of individuals that are yet to answer, so we'll just let that go through for another 20 seconds. Fantastic. So we will be wrapping up in 5 seconds. And it looks like the majority of our audience today is using either other financial solutions or a combination of Sage 300. So that's fantastic. We really appreciate your loyalty within the Sage ecosystem. So for those of you that joined us a little late into our webinar today, my name again is Ed Mortimer. I want to take the opportunity to welcome you and thank you again for joining us. I am a sales engineer, a solutions consultant here at Sage Intacct, and one of the things that I do is work with nonprofits, organizations such as yourselves, and I do in understanding what your organization's requirements are and how we can solve for your current situation within the Sage Intacct solution. So my goal here today is going to show you a solution that I know works within the non-for-profit organizations. The key thing here is not only is it a solution for today, but it's also a solution that allows you for future growth so that you can expand your mission. So Dave, I just want to take a quick pause here and make sure that you can see my screen. It should have the same dashboard that you had displaying earlier, which is showing the fundraising efficiency.
Yeah, it looks great. I have it on full screen mode. Thanks, Ed.
Great. Thank you, Dave. I just want to confirm that. So I'm going to kind of go over 3 overarching themes in our presentation today. I'll go through the concepts of how you can navigate within our solution. Once we have a good understanding of the navigation, we'll then carry into an area called visibility. And after the visibility, we will conclude through an area that I like to call transparency as well. So one of the nice features or key features with Sage Intacct is that you can really access the solution from any place at any time. So currently, I am set up in my home using a traditional Internet Explorer. And while this is really nothing earth-shattering, the reason I like to point this out because it really speaks well to our cloud-based solution, especially for nonprofits that deal with staff and volunteers and board of directors that most likely, or quite often I should say, are remote. So the system is compatible with any types of browser, modern internet, so whether you use Firefox, Safari, Chrome, Internet Explorer, all these types of modern browsers, the system will work on quite well. Now, you'll notice in the upper right-hand side here as I drag my mouse, I am currently signed in as Carla Grace. Carla Grace here, based on the securities and the permissions that are set up in the system, will determine what modules she has access to. So you can give, Carla, as I've set her up today, is a business user. Think of her as one with superpowers, so she can essentially do anything within the system. And as I come over to her navigation bar here on the left-hand side, you'll see that she has a number of different modules that are available to her. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody has to have the same type of authority. Permissioning can be set by user, and it can also be set by location as well. So there's 3 different ways that you have the ability to navigate within the system. One, again, is this traditional menu right here, and setting up users and user permissioning is actually quite easy within the system. So you'll see here as you have on new users that you would like to add in, and we'll stick with the theme of Carla Grace. You would simply add her in as a business user, determine whether you want to give her full admin privileges or not. And then a nice feature as well is based on the areas of the software that you want to give this user access to. So you can go ahead and toggle the flags by giving that individual specific access to those modules. But again, within those modules as well, there's permission setting that's available to you. So within here, I could go ahead and set up whether I want to give them no permissions, read-only permissions to specific areas of the platform, or again, access to absolutely everything. And within that as well, within the individual elements of that module, I can determine by turning on these flags what I want to give access to that user. And I can also do that within the reporting element as well. So it's very similar in terms of the setup. Also, as you add in different users, you'll have the ability to clone these profiles. So if it's easier for you to have a set of series of authorities that you've set up, you can go ahead and do that quite easily. You'll see here, so this is Carla Grace, again, as I showed you earlier, in terms of what she has access to in terms of all the different dashboards. I've also set up a different user just for today to give you an understanding of what you could do. So in this case, Penny Smith, I should say, somebody which really only needs to record time and expenses that gets rolled up to Carla for approval. So the limitations can be a lot more restrictive in terms of what that user has the ability to see or not see, depending on what it is that you would like to do. So come back over to this dashboard. So it's a little nicer to look at dashboards from that standpoint. So as I mentioned, you have the ability to navigate in a number of different ways within the system. The first, so you'll see here, we have the ability for Carla to have a rolled up or consolidated view of all of her entities, but she has also the ability to go ahead and enter the respective different entities and post directly into those entities if she would like. Likewise, the menus are set up following the same kind of architecture. So what you'll notice here is if I go into the accounts payable, and there's 2 tabs that are located at the very top here. There's a configuration tab, and then there's an all tab. And the all tab is really where you'd spend the majority of your time within the system, and it'll be broken down into 3 key swim lanes. So you'll have, think of your tasks, your activities, and then any types of reports. And that theme is kind of common throughout the system, whether I went over into the purchasing element. Again, you'll notice that we have kind of the same setup. A nice feature as well for some users that are coming from a different type of interface or different platform that they prefer to have a graphical overview. So you can go ahead and use this type of environment as your navigation. Now, as part of your implementation with Sage Intacct, we would go through best practices and workflows, and that's essentially what you're seeing here with these arrows that are going from left to right. So for this particular organization, we would have set up a specific workflow that works for them, and then you'd be able to follow that workflow. And then based on my authority, again, if I didn't need or didn't have to have access to, for example, to receive a shipment, then this area would simply be grayed out for me from that standpoint. A lot of controllers or finance people also like to be able to work within multiple environments. So you do have the ability to open multiple tabs if you would like. So you can go ahead and duplicate this tab. And if I wanted to do any type of comparison between one tab and the other, this would allow me to go ahead and do that again, giving you time savings in terms of looking up information. You'll see in the far right-hand side, I also have the third way that I can navigate within the platform. I'll refer to this as bookmarks. So this is just for someone that's somebody I would say a little more robust with the platform, that's been using it for time and just wants to save themselves some keystrokes. So they'll have the ability to click into specific areas, and that'll just save them to have to navigate directly within the menu. Again, they have the ability to use these. And you can go ahead and reorganize these by a drag and drop if you would like. If you want to have a different terminology in terms of the name, something that sounds more accurate for you, you can go ahead and rename them as well. At any point, if you stop using this particular favorite, you can go ahead and remove that. And favorites are quite easily. You can either bookmark a specific page as you're navigating through it, or again, as I'm going through here, just by highlighting this little star in the menu would allow me to go ahead and make that a favorite. Now, as you get used to the system, you'll also maybe have questions in terms of how to use specific features and functionalities. So what we've done within the Sage Intacct system is we've given you the ability to pull help at any given time. So you have help on page specifics. So again, if I was looking to do something on this particular page around transactions and purchasing, everything will be broken down to me. Or if I wanted help on a more higher level, I can go ahead and access our general Sage Intacct Help Center, which will give me the access to the community, access to support, and all of the applications as well. So those are two different things that you can go ahead and use in terms of the support if you ever get stuck within the system. Last but not least, in terms of navigation, I always like to come back and show you our home screen. So the home screen is actually quite handy for individuals that are signing into the platform. This is really where we keep you abreast of what types of releases and updates are in the system. So we've recently just done our 4th release for this year. If I wanted to get information around any of the key areas that we've done updating, so again, around budgeting, reporting, I could go ahead and read the entire document. But we also include video or help tutorial videos that are in there as well to help you understand what are the new features and functionalities that we've included as part of this release. So that's a little bit, again, for today on navigation in the system. You can see that it's quite intuitive and easy to use. With that, what I'd like to do is move into the second area that I had allocated for today, which is around the area of visibility. And we'll spend a lot of time in here, and I'll show you some reports, again, that meet government standards along with various dashboards for you to operate for your organization at a glance with financial and metric type information. So I'll go through these. I will explain to you the underlying architecture of our system for our chart of accounts, as well as it's quite different from your traditional finance system. Whereas in a traditional or accounting system, you use what's called a classic chart of accounts. So think of it where you put your natural base accounts, and then you would have subledger accounts based on departments, maybe based on projects, based on employees, and that chart of accounts can get quite long in length. And in Sage Intacct, we use a different concept called dimensional accounting. So it is a non-linear way for us to trace and tag information. You have 10 dimensions that are available within the system. And essentially what you do is when you post a transaction, you tag it to the relevant dimensions, and then you can go ahead and identify those dimensions as part of your reporting and tag and drag all that information all into one set. So dashboards also follow the same type of theme that we saw in terms of all the securities. So however, I wanted to go ahead and configure this dashboard over here. I have permissioning rights that are available to me. So if I created a dashboard and I only wanted to have maybe my controller or a head of finance to have access to it, I can go ahead and give it to those specific individuals and deny the remaining individuals within the organization. Also, I can really choose how I want to go ahead and display this, so number of columns, how I want my tiles and to display, and the overall background color as well. So some little features that you can go ahead and set up. So let's dig in a little bit into these different dashboards that we have available. So I'll start with, again, around the theme of our controller here. So we can create specific dashboards that will display financial information. These can be specific statements, for example, of revenue and expenditures, information around, and you can include graphs around expenses by category, and you can toggle back and forth between the underlying data and these graphs, and all of this is in real time, as well as drillable. So anything that you see in blue here, I can directly query this number directly off of my dashboard and see what information is behind that. But also if I was in charge, for example, of approving timesheets or purchasing, as we saw earlier, I would have the ability to include as part of my dashboard and get notifications on all these different type of workflow approvals that will allow me to go ahead and receive those. And those workflow approvals can also get to notifications directly into your inbox, into your email. So that would allow you, again, if you're away from your solution, to know that there are tasks that are waiting for you from that standpoint. Now, we also include, as part of our non-for-profits, a series of dashboards for compliance reporting. So these can include all of your key compliance reporting that would be available for auditors and as such, for them to go ahead and have access to these various dashboards. If you're doing any type of also analysis, so we've included a number of different dashboards that are available. So if you wanted to do a budget variance, for example, from your debt comparison to actual, you can go ahead and include those. Whether, again, it's statements of revenue and expenditures, actual versus budget, or my expenditures budgets to actual. So all this type of information can be displayed directly onto the dashboard. If this is relevant to your organization, we also have the ability to create dashboards, for example, for a grant manager. So this would give them the ability to go over the different fiscal periods and see what remaining funds are available. Or perhaps you had somebody within your organization which was a project manager. Again, these are the different types of dashboards that would be available from that standpoint. We also create what are called a series of outcome dashboards. So these can be information, and you can bring in information from external sources. So this can be statistical information, which is outside of your financial solution. So think of it, in our case here, we have new members, and you'll see that these kind of 5 cards at the very top, and we call these performance cards, and these are essentially KPIs, or key performance indicators. So they can be, again, statistical information that can be brought in via CSV file. You can manually import this information, or if you wanted to go with what's called an API route and automate the process, there is an open API which is also available within the platform, which would allow you to go ahead and automate that process. So a number of different outcome dashboards are available. Again, depending on your non-for-profit, whether it's information around schools, and you wanted to keep track of student enrollment, staff counts, the average tuition per student, the average total, volunteer hours, again, all this type of information could be brought in. If there was information around ministry, again, we could go ahead and bring these types of information in, churches as well as clinics. So really tailor the information, lots of flexibility around that. You can see the dashboards really can be done in real time. And the key piece here is that everything that you've seen does not require the configuration from somebody in IT. As a user of the platform, I could quite easily add in new features or create new dashboards by just clicking on the plus sign over here. This will allow me to go ahead and choose what type of component, so whether it's a chart, whether it's a performance card or record, and I can go ahead and pull that report directly within our dashboard and have that available to me. And we'll go into these dashboards in greater length. So what I'd like to do now is going from the idea, again, of this visibility in terms of what I called transparency, and spend a little bit of time in specific reporting and show you the flexibility and the power around the solution. So I talked earlier around the idea of what's called dimensional accounting and how you could tag transactions. So to give you an idea or more concepts around that, if I wanted to get, for example, information, how did I come to this individual contributions number, or how did I come to this grant revenue? Well, you can click through on these performance cards and it'll give you the underlying report that's available to you. So you can see here that this contribution is made up of areas of donated goods and services, as well as bequests and legacies. And what I can do is I can click through on the actual contributions number, so that'll now bring me directly into the general ledger, where I can see all the transactions that are involved with that. If I wanted to click on a specific number, for example, if I wanted to query where this number came in, I could click onto that underlying data. It'll bring me now into the actual journal entry, and I can see two kind of tabs that are happening here. So I can see the actual transaction of the journal entry, our natural account, again, what I mentioned to you earlier. And then these areas are so funds, restrictions, departments, and these are all our dimensions and how I've chosen to tag this transaction. There are additional dimensions that are available to me. So in this case, I've exposed 7 of these dimensions. So if I wanted to tag a specific customer, I could go ahead and do so. If I wanted to tag a specific employee or item or vendor, I could go ahead and do so. Likewise, if there's additional dimensions that are required for your organization, you're not limited to these 10. We could certainly add additional dimensions into the platform, and native out of the box, it comes also with one which is called a user-defined dimension, which is essentially a multi-purpose dimension that you could repurpose for something very specific to your organization. So that really allows me to go ahead and again, no longer have to create subledgers within my chart of accounts. If we added a new department, I would simply add it as part of my department drop-down list, and then I would be able to tag that as part of my transaction. It would make it available for me, and then it's immediately available within the reporting element as well from that perspective. Now, on the other side here, we also have a history tab. So there is a full audit trail which is available within the system. I would see when this transaction was created, who it was posted by, and so on and so forth. So that's, again, some of the strengths and kind of top level of what dimensional accounting is about within Sage Intacct. The other area, again, comes down to the drill down capability that you have within the system. So coming over now to my controller dashboard and looking a little bit more at, again, this report here. So we have a statement of revenues and expenditures. I would be able to go ahead and drill into this particular report. So by going into this report, now you'll see here that I have all of my operating revenue, which is on the left-hand side here, along with my expenditures. And then I have my primary entity prior to year-to-date, my actual versus my budget. So all this information can be contained within the system. Again, because I'm using dimensional reporting and dimensional accounting, if I wanted to filter or if I was asked to get information more specifically, I could go through any of those dimensions that we just saw earlier. So whether it be department, fund, project, or grant, customer, and I can go ahead and filter my report by any one of these. So let's say that I wanted to look at all the projects specifically. I can go ahead and repurpose my report, and I've now created essentially a net new report just by using those dimension filters. And I can use one, or I could use a subset of any one of these dimensions to go ahead and repurpose this report. So lots of flexibility, again, around that area. Likewise, if I wanted to go ahead and maybe recreate a report or create a brand new report within the system, I can go ahead and do that as well. So you'll see here by clicking on the little pencil, it will bring me into my financial report writer. At any given time when I'm in my financial report writer, I don't have to save and generate this report. I can preview it just to make sure that everything is in line with how I want this report to display. So we saw that we had rows that included earlier all the information around our expenditures, and this was grouped together through areas which are called account groups. So essentially what I did as part of my configuration, I isolated those specific groups of accounts, and I named them and bundled them together so that they would be available to display on my report. I can, at any given time, if I wanted to add in an additional group, go ahead and look through my drop down or type for that particular group. Let's say that I wanted to add assets that's part of this report, and I wanted to put it at the very top of the report. You'll see now, if I wanted to see what that looked like, I can go ahead and create a live report, and with all those dimensions, so now I have at the very top my group of assets, which is broken down, and then we have the traditional expenditures as we saw earlier. So very easy for me to repurpose the report, add in as part of my dimensional reporting, any one of these types of groups. And again, if I wanted to remove this group, I could go ahead and remove by clicking on the little trash can. If I wanted to, for example, show more information around this group of assets. So right now we just have the details, but let's say that we wanted to expose some of the dimensions and we wanted to get the information around perhaps all of the funding. So we can go ahead and include that and again, preview our report. And you'll see that we're now going to change this. So our report's updated and we have it now grouped by the different funds that are available. Again, all in real time. So very easy for me to create these types of reports. So I'll go ahead and just remove that just by clicking the little trash can. That doesn't mean that I deleted that group. It just means that I've removed it out of my reporting. And I can do the same type of data manipulation with my columns. So you see as I click into my columns, I can add in a number of different columns that I need for my report. When I am within my column over here, I can choose what type of column it's going to be. So whether I'm pulling in information of actual, whether I'm doing a computation on the actual, on the budget, whether I would like to do a period balance, or maybe it's just a budgetary amount. So I could have one column being my actual, one column being my budget, and then I could have a variant on the third column if I wanted to go ahead and do that as well. I can choose my reporting period, so whether I wanted to do the reporting again period to date, maybe I wanted to do next year, next month, current year. If I do any of these changes, again, you'll see that as I update my report, the information is gone now to the next month as opposed to the year to date. So very easy for me, again, to change that type of information directly within here. I can also change how I want to go ahead and expand the information. So if I wanted to expand it by departments, I could go ahead and include that within my system. Again, net new report coming out. You'll see that all the information now is broken down as to how I wanted to go ahead and populate that data. So lots of strength beneath that. If I wanted to create filters on my report as well, or conditional formatting, if I wanted to identify, for example, any number or any that is greater or less than perhaps a specific dollar amount that you need to be concerned about, you can go ahead and include that, and then you can highlight that particular cell in a specific color as well. Other areas that I can do, so my filters are essentially, these are the dimensions that we saw earlier, so I can choose by flagging the prompt here whether I wanted to include these dimensions to be as part of my report filtering system that allow me to repurpose the report without having to go through the report writer. And the last area that I like to focus on as well through here is what I call the permissioning. So this, again, when I create my report, who do I want to give access to this report? Is it just for me? Is it for a series of board members that I would like to include? That could be done. And last but not least, I can also choose to include this report directly to my dashboard. I can make this part of my favorites, but I can also choose to schedule this report periodically and have that available to me as well. So lots of strength, again, around you being able to create these reports, no longer having to ask somebody within the IT department to go ahead and create a net new report for you from that purpose. Other things, again, so if I want to drill into a report as we, so my apologies, clicked on the, not on the pencil, but on the magnifying glass. If I wanted to drill down into my report and get information, again, maybe around conferences, I wanted to see what this number entailed. I have full drill down capability directly off of my dashboard. So we can see here that this conferences row is made up of conference fees, which comes out to an amount of $152,000. If I wanted to get more information around that, I can drill directly into into the general ledger. I will have access to all of the transactions that made up that number. If I want to drill down on a specific number again, I can come into that specific number, get all the information in terms of all the accounts and what was contained within that particular element. So lots of strengths that is there, that is available for my reporting from a non-for-profit perspective. So with that, Dave, I am going to transition back over to you and give you the mic.
All right, thank you very much, Ed. That was very well articulated and very clear. Appreciate you taking the time to show a lot. And for those of you that are participating and listening in on this this session, along with IWI, we're very happy to spend more time directly one-on-one, going into some more details and make it very relatable to your specific nonprofit. So Sage Intacct, what we've heard over the last 40 minutes or so, delivers customized finance. It's a customized financial and accounting system, one that is not an arduous task to implement within your organization. If you're moving from something like QuickBooks or from a Sage product or Microsoft, as many of our customers have, the process to implement and train is quite efficient. It typically takes about 2 to 3 months to fully implement the system. It's not a customized or writing code. It's actually configuring the system. So the reliance on the IT organization goes down tremendously in that area. You also see that it's very easy through the ability to tag transactions and really make them come in a three-dimensional way. Allows you to actually glean information from your data and distribute the reports and to the board members as well as to the program managers. And the reporting and the inefficiency that exists within many nonprofit organizations today, what we're hearing from our customers is that Sage Intacct really has helped them get that insight both into historical as well as future, looking at actuals versus budgeted. So on-demand, real-time dashboards by role as well, central view and controlled over distributed systems and locations. So if your nonprofit has multiple locations or multi-entities, these can all be consolidated, and they can also be viewed individually and viewed through different programs, employees, and other things that you'll be focused in on. It also gives you the confidence with the automation and bringing information into Sage Intacct, gives you confidence in that the financial data is accurate, up to date, and properly maintained. As well as if you're working with other third-party systems, Sage Intacct has an open API, and it's very easy to integrate the Sage Intacct with third-party systems as well. And with that, Ed, if you can go to the next slide. And I'd like to thank you very much for your time on behalf of Ed and I and Sage Intacct, and I'd like to pass it over to Sean from IWI.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to thank everybody for their attendance. If anybody has any questions, now's the time to type them into the question box. And we'll just give it a second. I believe there was one question in there that I seen. They were asking who does the upgrades and how often are they done?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sean, and maybe I can jump in there if you'd like me to from that standpoint. So we do 4 major updates in the system a year. As I mentioned when we were looking at that dashboard earlier at the very beginning, you'll get notification as to what is going to be comprised within that update. And there really is no downtime to your system. So we'll, because it's a pure native cloud solution, we will make sure that the update is basically as seamless as possible, and that there is no interruption to your business.
Okay, that's great. And I seen another question in here. They're basically, you know, asking the reasons why people moved to Intacct. I can answer that if you like, or would you like to answer it, Ed?
No, by all means, Sean. I think, you know, you having worked with your customers closely, I think you're probably the one better to say it directly. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I know Dave touched on it when he was talking about some of the aspects of Intacct, but a lot of it's about, it really comes down to access to information. Most companies now have more data and information than ever. It's just making use of it. And the issue is getting that data and having meaningful and granular reporting. And as you had showed, that very easy to report on all that data that you have very quickly in real time, and visibilities in real time, as I mentioned.
Yeah, some of the benefits, and we didn't really go into a lot of benefits, but there's both tactical as well as strategic benefits of our nonprofit customers who have worked with Sage Intacct. From a tactical side, customers are realizing a 60% faster time to close, 78% faster customer reporting. You can actually create the board book in minutes based off the information that's housed in Sage Intacct, and if you think about what your organization is doing today to pull together a board book to present, it certainly is an arduous task outside. It also gives you real-time access to financials. On a more strategic standpoint, our customers are actually realizing a 40% increase in donors and customer base. Is one of the statistics you saw earlier. Funders or donors who actually see the impact of their donations are more likely to give again, or to repeat give, which was really driving that statistic. Our customers are seeing a 20% growth in new grant funding, as well as really big increase, 20% increase in efficiencies, which is really benefiting the program and really allowing your organizations not to be hampered by chasing down numbers, but really to have become a data-driven financial group of the future through the information and your ability to share that information across the organization.
That's great, Dave. I've seen another question just came in asking if Sage Intacct can handle the payroll, or is payroll outsourced and can import data for reporting?
Yeah, so we're, do you want me to answer that, Sean?
Go ahead. I didn't want to jump on you. They're going to jump in. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Again, I'll pass it back over to you. By all means, go ahead.
Yeah, so Sage Intacct, basically we bring in, they have partners on the Intacct platform, but that are already integrated, or we can import the data for reporting. Yes, we can do that.
One of the things that hasn't come out, we haven't talked about this, and Sean, you just mentioned, there's in the Sage Intacct marketplace, there's over 200 organizations who have integrated directly to Sage Intacct. So there is a breadth of ability to work with these. These are pre-integrated through the open API of Sage Intacct, and Sage Intacct guarantees with each release, with the 4 releases a year, that those systems will continue to work. So this is a very big difference from some of our competitors, and really which really forces the onus on a marketplace partner within their ecosystem to make sure it continues to work. So it's really part of the Customer for Life program within Sage Intacct, really driving innovative solutions, a real defined customer journey, as well as what Ed has shown, a robust community that you can reach out and engage with other nonprofits similar to your own.
Okay, thanks, Dave. And then there was one other question that came in, and I think this is more directed at IWI, and it's just asking how IWI can help our nonprofit prospects and clients. And basically, I'll take a chance to answer that there. So we start off by looking at our customers' reporting requirements. And then from there, we just more or less reverse engineer to revamp their GL to meet those said reporting requirements, and then also bring in the best practices for the industry, in the nonprofit industry, just to reduce time on the reporting and their daily activities. So I think that's it for questions. Now's the chance to type one in real quick if you do have one more question. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank everybody for attending.